Hey everybody, John Ramdeen and Cody Saftik here in Fight Network's downtown studios. UFC on Fox went down in Denver, Colorado, the Mile High City. A welterweight showdown between Donald Cerrone and Jorge Masvidal, producing a tremendous knockout. Actually, it was two knockouts, as Masvidal landed a blow that sent Cerrone to the ground in round one, and I don't know how he survived. I guess Herb Dean stepped in right as the bell sounded and saved Donald Cerrone. Did he save him? As the inevitable happened in round two, Masvidal getting the KO victory. Donald Cerrone took a lot of punishment.
Well, a lot of punishment, yes, but I think a lot of people are looking at that fight certainly the next morning and thinking, wow, Jorge Masvidal looked amazing. He went out there, he destroyed Donald Cerrone. Yeah, but it was a very competitive first round the whole way through until eventually at the end of the first round, that overhand right. And it all starts with that body kick. He hits a spinning back kick to the midsection. Kind of has Cerrone frozen up a little bit, but that follow-up liver kick. Now Cerrone has that classical problem when he gets hit to the body, he tends to drop his hands, and he's just winging this overhand right, and that it landed 3 or 4 times. Puts him down at the end of the first, same punch that puts him down in the second round. He gets up, a flurry of body shots eventually brings the end to that fight. But great performance by Masvidal all around. Donald Cerrone had spots.
Yeah, of course. We saw the punishment on the legs alone, the leg kicks alone, breaking up Masvidal, and you would have to imagine that's part of the strategy. Anybody that watches Jorge Masvidal understands how good his mixed martial arts boxing is. Why allow him to have that mobility and fluidity and movement, break up his legs so he can't move around?
And I think it was a good game plan going in, but right off, maybe 2-3 minutes in, you realize, oh no, I can't break Jorge Masvidal, George Masvidal, whatever you want to call him. I can't break Masvidal. He just can't be broken. The guy's been in here with so many top-level fighters. He's been in so many wars in his career. Beat on his leg all you want. People were talking about, well, Ross Pearson got to his legs. Yeah, and Ross Pearson lost 30-26 across the map. He got beat up bad in every single round. Masvidal has the keys to succeed in any situation. It's like when Robin Black broke him down. The biggest thing that I took from that breakdown is that he can thrive in every situation. Cerrone tried to take him down, and he brick-walled him. He stuffed the takedown beautifully. He's able to scramble. He's able to do, if it was to go to the ground, he's able to grapple. He's able to work his jiu-jitsu game. But it stayed standing, and he showed how crisp he is in the stand-up department. Donald Cerrone's on a different level. The talks were he's won 12 of his last 13 fights.
He's the next guy.
He's the next guy. He might challenge for a welterweight title. And you nailed the nail right on the head when you said people overlook Masvidal because they look at his record and they think, oh, he sucks. He's lost a bunch of times.
I saw that going into this fight. You go to the forums like, oh, Masvidal sucks. Cerrone's going to kill this guy.
And the minute you start thinking that, the minute it might as well already be over. So right from the weigh-ins when you saw Masvidal get in his face, there was that classic moment in the Nate Diaz-Donald Cerrone fight. We're going into, I don't know if it was the second or third round. Cerrone's a little bit worried. Maybe he can work his way back in. But Nate Diaz is giving him the finger. And that's the moment everybody looks back to as the moment that he broke Donald Cerrone and proceeded to beat him. Rafael dos Anjos gets in his face, broke him. But Masvidal did the same thing. He pressured him, he broke him. And when he was going into the second round and he was there talking, it was that same feeling that it's about to come. And it did shortly thereafter.
Masvidal said he understands. He can't just play the same games he was playing before and just be smooth and calm. He has to push the pace, because if he doesn't push the pace and you have somebody that understands what they need to do to win rounds, Masvidal ends up losing split decisions. We saw how the fight he had with Jake Ellenberger, where the aggression was drawn out of him, and he really went after Ellenberger in that fight. And I think they should rematch, because the way the fight ended was a little bizarre.
I don't know, man.
But the same thing with Cerrone. When you pressure Masvidal, it feels like he fights even better. He's more of a fan-friendly fighter. Or maybe he just understands now, you know what? In order for me to get the biggest prizes, the biggest paydays, the biggest name opponents, I have to go after my opposition right now. And if you can get a stoppage victory over Donald Cerrone on network TV, you have to imagine he's now in that mix. And it's only going to be top-level opponents for him now at 170 pounds.
Well, it's only really been top-level opponents from this point. He's only really fought contenders. He's got to headline
Ross Pearson,
a card.
for example. You look at some of these guys, Quinta, for example, all very talented individuals. But now you're fighting the Johnny Hendricks and the Robbie Lawlers and the Gunnar Nelsons. And when you look at 170 pounds, it's some of the biggest names in the sport. Does he fight the Nick Diaz's of the world? Does he fight Nate Diaz's?
Yeah, of course.
Is that what's happening moving forward for Masvidal, or is it just back and forth? You take whoever the UFC gives you, that's the type of fight, or is it only big names moving forward?
Well, he's in a tough position because the current champ at 170 pounds, Tyron Woodley, is a friend and training partner of his, and it's the same position with, you mentioned, a Robbie Lawler. Who doesn't want to see Masvidal Robbie Lawler? But that's a fight that's not likely going to happen either. I know Robbie just left ATT TT, but those guys are still buddies. And at the end of the day, that's not a fight that Masvidal needs to take, because Robbie Lawler possibly on his way down, still a contender in the division, but he doesn't need to take a fight like that. So I don't see him going after those. But you can throw him against anybody, and he can do it all. If he wants to be that counter puncher, he can, and he's shown us in the past that he can do that. 55's done for him, so I think that he's conceivably going to be at 170 for the time being. But let this Woodley fight play out versus a Stephen Wonderboy Thompson, and I think you go for a fight like a Nick Diaz. It's a big fight. It's a huge name fight, and he's been talking about that. Show me the money. Everybody says it, but in Masvidal's case, I'm really into it. Show him the money. Give him a big fight.
But you know that Nick Diaz, I bet you if you mention a guy like Masvidal, he's like, oh, I love that guy. Tough as hell, super skilled, but nobody knows Jorge Masvidal. Sure, if you're a hardcore fan, you might know his name. But I'm Nick Diaz. I'm the show, so I need big opponents. So in order for Masvidal to get a big name like Nick Diaz, he's got to continue to beat the names like Donald Cerrone on a consistent basis, and then you're opened up to the world and you get bigger paydays, and then you can have your fight with Nick Diaz.
You know what's funny, and it's just like coming off the Royal Rumble, right? In pro wrestling world, you beat a guy, you kind of steal his shine, you steal his rub. Donald Cerrone was the man. People would have loved to see Nick Diaz versus Donald Cerrone because it's big name, big name. Yeah, of course, make that fight too. Why not? But if you're Masvidal and you need to go in there and you need to beat a guy to steal his thunder, not only did he go there and beat Donald Cerrone, he finished Cowboy Cerrone. He stole that thunder. So people are going to take notice to that. And guys like Robin and myself who were picking Masvidal going in took a lot of hate because of Donald Cerrone's stature in the sport.
People are nuts.
It's not even that. It's just it goes to show you that people love the guy. People are such fans of his that they don't want to hear, oh, maybe he'll be beat. But once Masvidal beats him, all those people that were watching because of Cerrone, some of them are going to come over to Team Masvidal. And I think with that, he's going to have some momentum. If you would have made Masvidal versus Nick Diaz before ever seeing Masvidal Cerrone, foregone conclusion, Nick Diaz is going to beat him up, right? That's not a fight I want to see. But now you're thinking, oh my God, I've seen how good Masvidal looks. Diaz has been off the shelf for a little while. Two dogs fighting in a cage. Nobody wants to see that in real life, but if they're actual fighters, yeah, sign me up.
I agree. 170 pounds right now, one of the most exciting divisions in all of mixed martial arts. And Gebran Masvidal throwing his hat into the mix. Who knows, maybe we can get a crack at a UFC championship sooner rather than later.